Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to explore Clasped Weft. This is the second section of the sampler series. Where we left off, we were weaving with color number 3, and so now the directions say weave 6 picks of weft color number 2. You'll notice that as I weave back and forth, I'm just setting one strand of yarn at a time. When we get into the clasped weft part of it, you'll notice that the weaving goes much faster because we're using 2 strands. When you're doing clasped weft, you want to have one color on a shuttle and one color in a ball. So I'm going to use the color number 1 in the ball, and I'm going to just drop it on the floor below me. I'm going to open the shed. I'm going to insert color number 2 across like normal, except at this point I'm going to take the other color and lay it across. With an open shed, and what I'm doing is I'm looping the 2 yarns together. You can see on the side there, and I'm pulling it across. So I've clasped the 2 yarns together in the middle, and you're weaving 2 at a time. We'll show you again. Come back with color number 2, come across, you go under the other color and insert the shuttle back in the shed without changing it. Back in the same shed, and you're pulling the clasp across, and you want to set the corner on the left, the thread on the left, give the selvage a little tug, and then press it into place. It creates a clasp that can move back and forth, so you can create your pattern by how you adjust it. You want to make sure you give a little tug on the selvages just to make sure it's not pulling in. And then you beat. Then you change the shed. As you can see, the color's moving around. Color number 2 goes across, set the corner, go under the opposite color, come back in the same shed, so with clasped weft, your weaving goes twice as fast because you're actually weaving with 2 fibers in each pick. And you have complete control of how you want it. Whether you want it to be an irregular pattern, like I'm doing now, kind of a flame pattern, or if you want to do geometric shapes. It's a very versatile type of weaving because you can incorporate some really interesting patterns in very simple plain weave. Now I'm going to choose to just pull it over just a little bit on the left side. I'm going to try and line it up exactly where the previous one was so I can make a column. Starting with Clasped Weft, on the right side, we've got our color. We're just laying the other color that's in a ball on the floor over this fiber, and we're going to pull it through. Now you don't have to secure the knot, the edge here, because it's already tied into the weaving. The first section we did, we had the magenta color on the right side, and now because we've moved the ball to the other side of our loom, it's reversed. Even when I'm doing this kind of a weave, I want to leave some space in the yarn so that it isn't too tight and doesn't pull the edges in. So by lifting the bubble up, lifting the clasp up like this, before I beat it, it gives it enough space that it doesn't pull the edges in. The important thing to remember with Clasped Weft is not to change the shed while you're passing the weft. So I put the burgundy through, I'm changing the shed, and then I'm wrapping it around the brown. And what happens is you can't pull it through. That's how you know you've changed the shed when you shouldn't have. So I've left the shed open so that the color that's come from the left is floating. This works very nicely with variegated yarns too, because it creates a whole nother pattern. This is Clasped Weft using 2 colors. You can do a much more complicated pattern by using 3 or as many as 4 colors. It's important to always set your turn on the selvage so that it doesn't pull in. And that's Clasped Weft. Continuing on by following the pattern of the sampler, we're going to alternate the pink and the gray to replicate the border that we had on the other side. By packing the threads closer together, you can create completely different patterns. As you see, by packing them in with a fork or with a tapestry beater, you see on how close it gets, it looks like staccatos across there. And we had kind of the same pattern down here. We had a gray, purple, gray, purple. So we have one more of the burgundy. And one more of the gray. And that completes section 2. In the next section, we'll be doing Rya Knots and Inclusions. We've just finished section 2 of the class sampler. This is what it will look like when it's all finished. Here are some examples of clasped weft projects you might like to try. Well, that's our work for today. You can see clasped weft from the left and from the right, and some borders that are part of the sampler project. Hope to see you next time when we'll talk about Rya knots.